This video will help you with the calculations on your first case study. So I've made up numbers for this example, and in fact I've just made up the midpoints as well. So for yours you have a range of information and that you'll need to find the midpoint for the different classes. So I'm assuming that this is the midpoint. Remember, that is just the average of the two endpoints. And so after each state listed in the row will be the different frequencies that go with the different midpoints. And so that's what I have here. Again, these numbers are completely different from what you have in your book. So just be aware of that. You will get numbers nothing like what I'm about to get. So our first thing we need to do towards finding our mean is to find the frequency times the midpoint. And so to do that, we put an equal sign, we click on our frequency, the asterisk, and our midpoint. Push enter, and it multiplies for us. Now, so I don't have to keep typing that, if I go in the bottom corner, you can see my cursor was a white plus sign and it becomes a black one. And so when I click while it's black and drag downward, it drags and then fills in with the same formula. Double clicking on the last cell will confirm that it is indeed doing what I want it to do by multiplying those two numbers. So we've got that part. Now we need to add a total row. We're going to need the sum of all of our frequencies, and so we use the sum function for that, and we're going to need the sum of all of these. Okay, so to get the mean, it is just the frequencies times the midpoints divided by the total frequencies. And so that comes to 14.75. That makes sense for my data because that's near 15, the middle group. And these numbers here are very symmetric around the middle, so it's not surprising I would get something close to that. So look at the number you're getting out and make sure it makes sense. It won't necessarily be the middle because your numbers may have a skewed distribution, but it should be close to where a bulk of the entries are from the frequency. Alright, so now that you have the mean, we can start working on finding the standard deviation. So in order to get that, you'll need to find the difference between each of the midpoints and the mean. And so for the first one, put an equal sign, I click on the midpoint, minus, and then the mean. Pushing enter gives it to me. If I use my drag and fill again, we'll see we get some weird numbers. And if I click on the bottom one, I can see it's not subtracting the mean because it's moving this cell downwards as well. So I need to go back up to my original cell, insert dollar signs in front of the C and the 9 so that it will hold that cell constant. And now when I push enter and then drag and fill, I can see that that one fills in the right number since it's holding it constant. So now we have the deviations, but we need to find those squared. That's the next part of the formula, is to square the deviations. Okay, so we take the number we have and square it. Now, that little caret sign that you saw that I typed, that's what it's called, but it's like a little rooftop, little upward pointing arrow, and that is the exponent sign. It's on my keyboard, it's Shift 6, and then the number after it is the exponent itself. So the caret tells you I'm giving an exponent, and then after it you put what you want. So when we push enter, we see it has indeed squared that number, drag down, double click to make sure, and it's doing what we think it should be. Okay, so there's my square deviations, but this observation of 5 does not happen once, but 1,500 times. So you need to then multiply each of these deviations, square deviations, times the frequency. So equal sign, clicking on the square deviation, multiplication, frequency. Push enter, and fill in. That is still doing what I want it to do, so it's doing it correctly. Now we need to add them all up. So when you add them up, it gives you the total of all of them. But to get the variance, it's going to be that number divided by the sum of your frequencies. Pushing enter gives me 36. The standard deviation, remember, is just the square root of the variance. So that function in Excel is sqrt for square root. Then you click the number, close the parenthesis, and push enter. And so I get that the average is 14.75 employees with a standard deviation of 6 employees. And so once you've done this for one, it's actually very easy to copy over. So if you select all of it, copy, I'm using the shortcuts Control-C, and then paste with Control-V. You can then change the name of your state and start filling in the frequencies for its row. So we'll say that it looks more like this, we'll just say. So everything will have updated except for the reference of the mean. It's still referencing up here. So I can see my new mean is in C20. So I'm going to delete that 9, make it a 20, and now it's got my new deviation. Drag and fill, and now I have my new standard deviation that's correct. Okay? And so repeating this process will help you be able to get the rest of them for the entire table. I'm going to finish off this video showing you what the formulas were so you can see what that part looks like. So there's all the formulas if you need to see what I did. Again, your cell references like B3 to B7 will be different because you have more rows than I do. But the basic formula process will be the same. So I hope this helps. Feel free to ask me any questions you still have.